Welcome to the Vision Driven Basketball Training Podcast. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shout out to everybody who's listening right now on YouTube, and of course everybody who is on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Appreciate you guys who are tuned in. If you guys are new, you're listening to Apple Podcasts, go ahead and do me a favor, leave a review, scroll down to the bottom of the page, it'll be right there. Like you guys know, beginning of every show, those of you who have been here before, know that before each episode, if I have any new reviews, I'll go through and I'll read that review. Today we've got one review to read, and it says, "Thanks, this is a great basketball podcast and I love it. I noticed that I'm a little slow on the court and not so quick on my feet. Do you know anything to fix this? Thanks to weekly advice." Without seeing you, there could be a bunch of different reasons for why that is. Could just be straight up working on your ability to be quick, so your ability to play whatever, whether that's defend, whether that's move laterally, and kind of working like reactive training that way. Or it could just be like the weight room, like you got to go and get stronger, that's why you can't move. But in general, make sure that you're focusing on that side of the spectrum, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the episode too. There are a lot of great trainers out there who focus on that sort of stuff, getting quicker. PJF Performance is one of my favorites out there. I think he's really, really good. So he's a guy to check out, PJF Performance. He's got a lot of stuff talking about quickness and just overall athleticism as a basketball player. So go check that out, but I appreciate the review. So I got a DM this week from a player who is frustrated, and it's a DM that I've seen multiple times, and I thought it would be a good idea to make an episode talking about it, because of course I've been there. I'm pretty sure everybody watching will also be able to relate to this. And obviously you out there who's watching and listening right now, like I'm sure you probably can think of situations where, you can relate, or you've had this similar experience on some team that you've been on. So starts off, "Hey coach, I had a game recently where my team expects me to play well because two of our best players were in lockdown. I performed really badly. I was like a ghost. It's really frustrating for me because I know I'm working harder than the rest of my team, but they score 20 plus points per game and I barely ever score. Do you have any advice?" So that was that question. I want to focus on the end of that question, talking about I have teammates who do this, teammates who score 20 points per game, and I barely score, but yet I put in more time than them, I work harder than them, and for some reason I'm still not performing as well as they do. To kind of, we'll touch on the beginning of it when we talk about like bad games. Bad games just kind of happen, and even as much as you may want a game to go well for you, you might just have a bad game. Now, if that becomes a consistent trend, typically that's where you need to change something. But, just because you really want to play well in a game doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to. That's just kind of how things shake out sometimes. I want to go through three things to specifically talk about you having, you have a teammate or multiple teammates who are better than you or play better than you, and yet they don't put in as much time as you. I know it's one of the most frustrating things. And again, everything that I'm speaking about in this episode is coming from my own experiences as well, because I've definitely, again, like I've said, I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. I'm sure everybody listening has been there before, where you feel like, I put in a lot of work and I work harder than, this guy on my team or that guy on my team. Yet that guy, shoots better than me. That guy is scoring more than me. That guy's getting more plays run for him than me. And it's definitely a frustrating thing. And there's definitely ways to fix that. Not necessarily saying that you're going to be the best player on your team. It's not necessarily a bad thing for your teammates to be good. Obviously, you want to play with good teammates. But how can you maximize your own ability so that you don't feel like you're kind of wasting your potential or wasting the work that you're putting in? Because it's one of the most frustrating things for sure. So we're going to go through 3 points that I want to make about this, 3 things that are really going to help you guys to be able to change the way that you approach, hey, I work this hard, this guy doesn't do this. Like, it's going to help you to approach that from a better perspective, and be able to ultimately maximize the work that you put in and the efficiency that you work with. So point number 1 that you have to understand is that more work does not equal more success. Okay, you got to understand more work does not equal more success. So one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that the more work I put in, the harder I work, the better I'll become, and the more successful I'm going to be. Okay, the more work I put in, the more success I'm going to have, and that can be true sometimes, but it's not always true, and it's not. Sometimes it's only true to a certain extent. Okay. One of the, I'll give you a pretty glaring example. You might say, hey, if I work out for 8 hours a day and my opponent only works out for 3 hours a day, then I'm going to be better than my opponent because I work out for 5 more hours per day than they do, right? That's a thought that players have, and if you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that I would not subscribe to that theory. But there's a lot of players out there who actually believe that, and they're frustrated when that's actually not the case. You putting in 5 more hours a day than your teammate doesn't actually guarantee you're going to be any better than they are. And sometimes when it's that big of a gap, it can actually counteract what you're trying to do and actually not help you at all, or at least help you very, very minimally compared to what you could be doing. So that's one right there. But obviously, we can go with a more realistic example, which would be, if if players might think that, if I put in more work, then I'll be better than them. So if I work out for an hour and a half a day and my teammate over there never works out, he just goes, he plays basketball, he shows up to, to tryouts in November, and boom, he's for some reason better than I am. And players will think, oh, well, if I just put in, work every single day, if I go to the gym and I work out every single day, I'm going to be better than him because he doesn't put in that amount of work. And that's not necessarily true either. And again, I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that, and for sure I have too. But that's the mantra right there. Is I work out every day, my teammates don't, and for some reason they're still having more success than I am. It's important for you to realize that hard work does not guarantee you anything at all. Okay, I'm about 6'1", probably around 180 pounds, and no matter how hard I work, okay, it doesn't matter how much time I spend in the weight room, I'm gonna hire the best strength and conditioning coach, the best nutritionist, the best on-court trainer. I can do all that stuff. No matter how hard I work, I would not be able to guard prime Shaquille O'Neal in the post. Just couldn't do it. 6'1", 180, does not matter how hard I work. I'm not defending 7'1", 300-pound Shaq in the post. It's not possible. Okay, no matter how hard I work at it, I'm going to have to foul him, or I'm going to have to try and foul him and hope I don't give him an and one. That's how it's going to have to be. Because at the end of the day, he's too big and too athletic. And it doesn't matter, even if Shaq puts in 0 hours and I put in 3, 4, 5 hours a day, it's not going to change the outcome, okay? So there we go. We can see that the fallacy of hard work equals more success, we can see it for what it is right there, which is a fallacy. It's not true. It's not always true, I should say. And so, again, that's where we can really start to see that play out. So sometimes hard work just isn't enough. And what you need to do is you need to start to view hard work as just the baseline. It's just the entry fee. Unless you're supremely talented, right? Unless you're Shaquille O'Neal, 7'1", 300 pounds, who also is the fastest player on the court, unless that's you have to understand that hard work is just what's expected. Like, you have to work hard. You have to show up and you have to put in the work. That doesn't guarantee you're going to be the best player on the court. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a starter. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get playing time. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be more successful than that person who doesn't put in work, but it's going to give you a chance at the end of the day, again, unless you are some sort of freak athlete who just naturally has it, which there are certainly players out there like that. And again, you guys all know players who are really good athletes who don't put in a ton of time basketball-wise, yet are still good at basketball because they're just kind of naturally what they are, okay? And no amount of hard work is going to overcome that natural deficiency, we could say, between me and Shaq, right? So that's just, again, another extreme example. What I want to really lay out to you guys, hard work is not everything. Just because you put in more work than somebody does not guarantee that you're going to be more successful, that you're going to be better than them. And we have to understand is that if you don't work hard, then you're screwed. If you don't work hard, then you have no chance. You don't even put yourself in the running to be able to be successful at basketball or really at anything. And again, that's with a caveat that you aren't some top 1% naturally gifted athlete, okay? This is for everybody else, right? This is for all of us. And again, everything I say is from experience, so you have to understand that you have to work hard, but there's so many other factors at play, okay? So that's point number one, is that more work does not always equal more success. But I want to talk about some more steps you can take. So point number two I want to make is, are you working efficiently? Are you working hard, but also are you working smart at the same time? Okay, I think this is where players really start to overlook things, and this is really where players get themselves in trouble with thinking, oh, I just work hard, I work hard, I work hard. Yeah, okay, you might work hard, you might go to the gym every day. You might go outside every day and put in work, but what exactly are you accomplishing when you do that? Like, what exactly are you getting out of that? I could go outside and do stationary pound dribbles for 4 hours a day. And I could go hard at it, really be working hard, sweating, arms sore. And I go inside, I might feel really accomplished, right? My arm is going to be real sore. It's probably going to be sore the next day. And I'm going to feel like, yeah, I went out today and I worked hard. But what does doing stationary pounds for 4 hours actually accomplish when we talk about how it translates to the game? Does it necessarily make you that much better of a ball handler as compared to somebody who maybe went outside for 20 minutes and did a bunch of different dynamic drills, working on different, crossovers, maybe working on, a V dribble, mixing that in there, working stuff on the move, like more game-like ball handling stuff? Well, I think that, it's really no contest. You're going to get significantly better in that 20 minutes of focused, dynamic work compared to that 4 hours of just strenuous pounding the ball kind of mindlessly, okay? I might go outside and work for 4 hours in those pounds, but if I go take one of my players and I say, okay, you know what? We're going to play one-on-one half court right here where you've got to be able to beat me, okay? And now you've got to really work on your ball handling with pressure on you, right, in a dynamic environment where there's actually a defender there trying to take the ball from you, and we do that for 20 minutes, that player is going to get significantly better in that 20 minutes than I would get in that 4 hours. So you have to understand that what you do when you work is actually more important than how hard you work or how long you work for, okay? So I think that the mindset shift needs to go from I work out for X amount of hours per day, or, I do X number of workouts per day, to I accomplished X today. I accomplished this today, or I got better at this today. Okay? Start looking at the actual outcomes, the actual results of what you did. Okay? Not just, oh, I went to the gym for 3 hours today. Well, what did you actually get better at when you were doing that? What did you accomplish today? What did you get better at? What did you focus on? Okay? And that's where you're going to start to see the results come for you. So something to understand, guys, is that at the end of the day, nobody cares how much time you put in. Nobody cares how many hours you worked for. Like, no one cares about it, okay? Because at the end of the day, what people care about are the game results, right? You can work for 0 hours, and if you go out and you score 20 points per game, people are going to think that you're good. And if you go out and, you work out for 2, 3, 4 hours a day, but you go out there and you don't do anything, then what are people going to think, right? At the end of the day, people only see the finished product. So that's what the ultimate, like, what our training is to gear us for, right? Your training should gear you so that you have the best possible results when it comes to actual games, okay? And that's where it comes from. Do we train to get better at practice, or do we train to get better at games? And changing your mindset from, oh, it's all about how much work I put in, how hard I work, to it's all about what I get out of the work I put in, then that's where you start to see those game results come for you. What people care about is what you do when the lights come on. Coaches will always say, right, oh, I want guys who are gym rats. Like, I love guys who are always in the gym, always working. But at the end of the day, coaches actually, above everything, love guys who help them win. They're going to play the players who they look down the bench and they say, those 5 players are going to help me win, so those are the 5 players who are on the court. And there's no thought in that coach's mind of, well, this guy worked out for 2 hours a day in the summer, and that guy only worked out for 30 minutes a day in the summer, so I guess I'm going to play the other guy. There's no thought of that. There's, this guy is a better player than this guy, so that guy's going to help me win, right? This guy is a better shooter than this guy, so I'm going to run the play for that guy. And there's no thought of, oh, well, I guess, maybe I should give it to that guy because that guy actually spent more time working on his shot than this guy did. So I should probably give it to that guy. Even though he's a better shooter, I'll give it to the other guy. That's just not how it works. Coaches play guys who help them win games. So at the end of the day, you have to be focused on getting better results when it comes to your actual games. And the quality of your hard work is what actually matters when it comes down to that. So the questions to ask are, how game-like are your workouts? How much attention to detail do you pay to your form? How much time do you spend shooting, right? And how much of that is very, very focused, working on form, cementing in that form, becoming confident in your form, and then how much time do you spend working game shots? The shots that you're gonna have to be able to hit. How much time do you spend working on those shots? How good are you at those shots? Okay, and ultimately, what's the intensity of your workouts? If you're going at 50% intensity because you work out for 6 hours a day, the translation to a game where you need to be at 100% is probably not going to be that high as compared to maybe doing an hour-long workout where you're actually going at that game speed the entire time. Okay, so in terms of all these specific areas, I've got podcasts, workouts, videos talking about pretty much everything that I just mentioned. I also have programs that go through this stuff step by step in terms of like, okay, here's what you need to do, follow this, do this drill, this workout, and kind of a step by step process. So there's all those options for you. So again, if you're confused on any of that stuff, check it out. Like just head on YouTube and look at that stuff up. Especially my most recent podcast when it comes to like shooting and stuff. I've talked a lot about that recently, so that's important for you guys to look at. But again, more important than how hard you work is how efficient the work is that you put in. There are plenty of players out there who focus on the wrong things. They go out and they do their pound dribbles for 4 hours a day. I'm not saying that players are doing that, but I'm giving that as an example, right? Where it's something that might feel like you're working hard, but how important is that work actually? Right? How much does it actually translate? Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's not. It doesn't translate the way that you might think it does, okay? So that's point number 2 is the way that you work matters, right? It's all about the efficiency that you work with, not just how hard you work, but how smart you work, how efficient you are at that work as well, okay? And then the third point I want to make is that, if you struggle with not playing up to your potential or being outplayed by guys who maybe don't put in as much as you do, then it becomes, do you know how to play the game? Okay? Drills versus play. Do you know how to actually play the game? If I put you on the court, can you go make things happen? Can you make decisions in split seconds when you need to? Do you know when to cut to the basket? Do you know when to, tight curl around a screen? Do you know when to flare off a screen? Do you know when to go backdoor? Right? Are you willing and able to go set screens for your teammates to help them get open and then make the right read off of that? Do you know how to play, when you get pressured by somebody? Okay. Do you know how to attack a closeout? Those are all things you get from actually playing the game with defense on you right there. And that's a lot of times where players struggle, especially players who put in a lot of time, right? Players who, and again, I speak from experience, players who are in the gym every day. Like, you know what? I'm in the gym. I work on my skills every single day. I never miss a day. All this stuff. A lot of times where they struggle, where the disconnect is when it comes to actually translating what they do in practice to games. And again, we shouldn't be training to get better at training. We should be training to get better at games. And so if you aren't able to translate what you do in practice to games, then obviously there's a disconnect. We need to fix that right there. So this is probably the most important area of all of this sort of stuff right here. Okay. The one thing we can talk about, kind of prefacing all of this, is that, there's kind of 2 main reasons for why players who don't put as much time in, don't work as hard, why those players might have better results during games than players who do put in that work. Let's go back to my Shaq analogy, right? You might have players who are just naturally more athletic, right? You might have a player who's just naturally the best athlete. They might not put in much time at all, but they're bigger than everybody, or they're faster than everybody, or they're quicker than everybody. And because of that, they're able to play at a high level. Now, as you raise up in levels, like that becomes less and less of a thing, because the better athletes naturally start to have to work, right? The worst athletes get weeded out, so it's more of a level playing field. So guys have to now work at it, right? As you go up in levels to college, professional, but levels below that, there are guys who are just great athletes, and that's all they really need. So that's one reason, and obviously there's not much you can do to naturally to change what you are naturally. But like I said at the beginning of the podcast, there's ways you can affect your athleticism, improve your athleticism significantly for sure. Like I said, I usually defer to trainers who I think are really good at this stuff. So, like I said, PJF Performance, I think he's great at this stuff. So go check him out if you guys want to get better at that sort of aspect of things. But I think that's the first kind of main area is why. At the end of the day, if someone's more athletic than you, they're going to have the advantage. And that goes back to, does the hard work matter as much as we think it does? Well, in that situation, there's certainly a lot more to overcome when there's a player who's just way more athletic than another player. So that's number 1. But number 2 is just natural feel for the game, right? Natural instincts for the game. And this is where you really see those differences, right? You might have a player who doesn't do many drills, but they're constantly playing. They're at the park playing. They're just messing around playing 2-on-2 with their friends, and they have just a good feel for the game because they just play, right? And so they might not do all the drills, but when it comes down to getting on the court and having a good feel for the game and making good decisions, they've just done it more than a lot of other players who just do the drills. Okay, so that's really where you have to look at is you have to the players who struggle, who don't play up to their potential, who get outplayed by guys who maybe don't put in as much time as them. A lot of the times it's because they spend all their time training and they don't spend enough time actually playing the game, actually getting better at being able to be a basketball player, okay? Developing those instincts, that feel for the game, that decision making. I talked about in a video a couple weeks ago how decision making is probably the most important skill in basketball. And if you never play, if you never have a defender there, then you don't ever work that skill. You don't work that skill by yourself. You can work your shooting, your ball handling, your finishing. Obviously, those are very, very important. If you don't have those skills, then the decision-making part, you're not going to be able to make a decision because you don't have the actual skills to carry it out. But if you don't ever play or you don't play enough, then that decision-making ability is neglected. So you have to find a balance between doing that. And again, that might be 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 5-on-5, just whatever. Okay, having a defender in front of you as much as possible and having to learn how to play and having to succeed with that. I think that's very, very important. And kind of to add to that, if you guys go to the top link in my description below, you guys can grab my free decision-making training checklist where I go through it, step-by-step how to train your decision-making. Completely free. Just go ahead and click the top link below on YouTube or on podcasts or Spotify. You'll see that there. Completely free, and it'll walk you through this step-by-step in more detail. But decision-making is such an important skill that a lot of players just they overlook. They think, because I go to the gym by myself every day, that I should just naturally be the best on the court. But you have to understand there's a difference between practice and games. With games, you have a whole defense trying to stop you. You've got to be able to make reads, make decisions, and if you don't train it, you're going to struggle there. So that's the other area that players will struggle with, especially the type of player who, again, speaking from experience, is at the gym every single day, right? Putting in the work, always, watching YouTube videos, trying to get better at basketball, trying to learn more about basketball. It comes down to how, do you just hoop or do you just train? Because if you just train, you're probably really good at training. You're probably, when you guys do shooting drills and practice, you're probably one of the best players. Right, you guys do ball handling drills, you're probably one of the best players. But when you guys get in games, if you're not one of the best players still, that's probably where you're lacking, is the decision-making, the instinct, the feel for the game, which you get through playing. So play more basketball, okay? Develop a better feel for the game, develop those instincts, train your decision-making, and ultimately you're going to get better. Again, check out that decision-making training checklist, top link in the description below. That's going to help you guys out because, again, at the end of the day, guys, the thing you have to understand is that the results are what matters, okay? How much time you put in doesn't matter. Nobody cares about that. What matters is what do you do when the lights are on? So knowing that, we have to train for that. We have to train so that our training is tailored to that, okay? So again, third point that I need to make about this is that do you know how to play the game? That's the question. Do you know how to play the game? Drills versus play, okay? Do you have a good balance of both? That's very, very important. So again, the 3 reasons why you might get outplayed by players who don't put as much time as you. The first thing to understand is that more work does not equal more success. Number 2, working efficiently. Do you work hard and do you work smart? And then number 3, do you know how to play the game? Those 3 things, take care of those 3 areas, guys. Shift your mindset to focusing on how can I get the best game results? How can I be the most efficient with my work? And that's where you're going to start to see the best game results moving forward. So I hope this helps you guys out. I know, again, I've said it a bunch of times, speaking from my own experience, just thinking about what would have helped me, what I know now, and being around so many players, seeing kind of similar patterns with that. I think it's very, very important that we understand that hard work's not everything. It's also about how you go about doing things. And I think once we start to take a smarter approach to training, you'll see those results start to double, triple, and that's where things really start to take off. So again, hopefully this helps you guys out. Like I said before, guys, drop a review on Apple Podcasts if you're new, or if you just haven't done one before. Let me know what you think in that review, or read it on the show. If you guys are on YouTube, I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.